students, once again. So we have, in the last two videos, we have been discussing about your respiratory system, right? So today we will be discussing about breathing. Okay, so we know that air is very important to us. We cannot live without air, right? So just imagine your life without air. How will it be? Just lock yourself in a cupboard where there's no entry of air. Just think, how will you feel? Okay, it will be very impossible for us to even breathe, right? It'll be so suffocating. So that's why air is very necessary for breathing. Okay, so breathing, what happens is that it is the process where we take in air into our lungs through the nose and then expire it. That is, we take air. Okay, after that, that is through your nose and then into your lungs, and also from your lungs into your nose you expire it out again, right? You breathe in oxygen and then you breathe out carbon dioxide. Okay, so the process by which air that is rich in oxygen, okay, air that is rich in oxygen is taken in, okay, inside your body, and then the carbon dioxide that is the rich carbon dioxide will be given out from your body. This process is known as your respiration. So oxygen will be taken in and inside your body, and then carbon dioxide will be released from your body. This is known as your breathing. Okay, and remember, we have already been talking about is that when you breathe in oxygen rich air into the body during breathing, it is known as inhalation. Breathing in, this process is known as inhalation, and this part, breathing out, was known as your exhalation. So when we breathe in air to supply oxygen to the cells of our body, right? So whatever air that we breathe in, we supply oxygen to different parts of the cells that is present inside our body. At the same time, we breathe out carbon dioxide, that is the waste product, that is your carbon dioxide from our body. Okay, now we'll move on to the next, that is your breathing rate. So what happens in your breathing rate? The number of times a person breathes in a minute. In a 1 minute, the number of times, how many times I breathe, it is known as your breathing rate. Okay, so we adults, or we can say an adult, they breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide in 1 minute. Within a minute, they breathe out and breathe in oxygen and carbon dioxide 15 to 18 minutes in an adult. Okay, and then that is mainly in our resting position. When we do not do anything, when we just sit, we breathe in or breathe out 15 to 18 times in a 1 minute. Okay, in 1 minute. And then the breathing rate of women, remember that women, they breathe more faster than men. Okay, and this breathing rate, they are not always constant. Okay, it will change. Okay, if we are in a resting position, we breathe around 15 to 18 times. But suppose you are doing your physical activities, okay, like running, exercising, climbing, or even what happened in that time, your breathing rate increases. Okay, and when your breathing rate increases, more oxygen is supplied to the body cells. So breathing is not constant, your breathing rate is not constant. So what will happen is that it will change according to your oxygen requirement. Okay, so especially when you do physical exercises or any physical activities, your breathing rate will increase. That means you need more supply of oxygen. Now we'll move on to the mechanism of breathing. Okay, so we know that the process of breathing takes place in your lungs, right, or in our lungs. So we have already discussed in the first video that when your air passes, the air passes through your nasal passage, and then from your it goes to a nasal passage, it goes to the windpipe, and then it reaches your lungs, right? So these lungs, they are present in an airtight space in our body that is known as your chest cavity. Okay, so around the sides of your chest cavity, you have a rib cage that is with a sheet of muscles between the ribs. Okay, so here you will have your rib cage. Okay, that is here inside here, your lungs will be present. So in this diagram, you have seen that air is drawn into the nose or mouth, and then it reaches into the windpipe, and then it reaches into the lungs. So this rib cage, they encloses the lungs present inside it. Okay, your lungs are present inside the rib cage. Okay, at the bottom of your chest cavity here, you will have your diaphragm. Okay, this diaphragm, they form the floor of your chest cavity. Okay, this part is your diaphragm. They form the floor of your chest cavity. So when you breathe, breathing involves the movement of your rib cage and the diaphragm. So your rib cage and the diaphragm, when you breathe in, the movement will involve. This rib cage and your diaphragm will move because when there is a breathing involvement. Okay, so this process of breathing will include inspiration or inhalation. Okay, or we can on also the expiration or exhalation. Okay, so remember, whenever there is a breathing takes place, it will involve the movement of your rib cage and your diaphragm. So under this mechanism of, under the process of breathing, okay, you have your inspiration, or you can term it as your inhalation, and the other one you have is your exhalation or your expiration or exhalation. Okay, so under inspiration or inhalation, that means you're taking in oxygen, and under here exhalation or expiration, it means you're giving out your carbon dioxide. Okay, so during inspiration, when we take in the air, okay, so when we take in the air, it is drawn through the nose and into the windpipe and to the trachea. What will happen is that your ribs, okay, they'll start stretching and they will start moving upwards. When they stretch, they will move upwards, and at that time your diaphragm will move towards downwards. Rib cage, your ribs will move towards, they will stretch and move upwards. Okay, they will start stretching and move upwards, and your diaphragm, they will move down and become flat due to the contraction. Okay, so when this type of process, when it takes place, it will result in the increase of volume of your chest cavity and decrease in the air pressure. So since there will be decrease in your air pressure, okay, the atmospheric air will be drawn into the nostrils, that is through your respiratory tract into the lungs. Okay, so due to the contraction and due to the stretching of your ribs and diaphragm, okay, your diaphragm, they move towards downwards and they will become flat due to the contraction, and your ribs will start stretching, and when they move upwards, what will happen is that your there will be increased volume of your chest cavity, and then there will be decrease in your air pressure. Since there will be a low pressure, what will happen is that the atmospheric air will be drawn into through the nostrils, and then it will go to your respiratory tract, okay, that is into the lungs. Then when it comes in term of your expiration, so when the air is given out, okay, the rib cage muscles, they will start contracting, okay, pulling the ribs. Here the ribs will move downwards and then inward, and then these diaphragms, they will they will contract in the upward position. Remember, rib will move downwards and your diaphragm, they will start contracting upward position. And then here what will happen is that there will be a decreased volume of your chest cavity, and there will be an increase in the air pressure. So this air pressure, they will force the carbon dioxide along with some water vapor to move out from the lungs. Okay, so let me make a chart here. So under inspiration or inhalation, what will happen is that your ribs, they will start stretching, and then it will move upwards. Okay, and at the same time your diaphragm, they will move downwards and also become flat due to contraction. So what will happen is that it will result in the increased volume of chest cavity and decrease in air pressure. Since there will be decrease in air pressure, what will happen is that the atmospheric air will be drawn towards downwards, that is through the nostrils, and then that is through your lungs. And then under expiration, what will happen is that your rib cage, the ribs, they will start pulling, okay, downward, and then your diaphragm will move in upward position, or we can say they will start contracting in the upward position, and it will result in a decreased volume of chest cavity, okay, and it will increase. Since there will be decreased volume of chest cavity, there will be increase in air pressure. That will help to draw out, or that will help to this increase in air pressure will help or will force the carbon dioxide along with some water vapor to move out from your lungs. So I hope you're clear with the mechanism of breathing. Okay, we all know that if we do not take care of ourselves, okay, we can also lead to some diseases, okay, we can also suffer from some diseases. So even under respiratory system, we also have some common respiratory diseases, okay. The first one to have is your asthma, okay. This asthma, it is caused due to allergy, okay. So, and due to allergy, what will happen is that your respiratory passage becomes swollen and constricted, okay. So asthma, they are the respiratory disease that is caused due to allergy, which will, what will they do is that your respiratory passage, they will become swollen and constricted, okay. So what are the symptoms? So I will not write down the symptoms, so I want you to refer your textbook, that is your page 74. So I will just discuss in some details, okay. So if you're not that, so while explaining this, I want you to refer your textbook, that is page 74. So this a person, whenever they have been suffering from asthma, they will complain about their difficulty in breathing, okay, and wheezing, okay. So what will happen is that asthma often occurs due to the inhalation, or when we breathe in of allergens, okay, the allergens such as dust, molds, hairspray, okay. So like some people, they are allergic to dust, molds, hairspray, in all those type, what will happen is that they will have difficulty in breathing, and they will also have wheezing, okay. At the same time, the common symptoms of asthma will include your coughing, okay, especially they'll cough at night, they'll have wheezing, they'll have shortness of breath, and they'll have chest tightness, or as well as pain or pressure, okay. So what are the causes is that asthma, they are mainly caused, I told you that when we breathe in allergens such as your dust, molds, hairspray, okay, and it can also cause like due to air pollution, drugs, cold air, smoke, fragrances, etc. Okay, so a person who has allergy of all this type of allergens, okay, they are often tend to suffer from asthma, okay. So what are the preventive measures that we can take to prevent asthma is that we should minimize, or we should at least stay away from more exposure to allergens, that is we should minimize ourselves from getting contact with those dust, molds, hairspray, okay. We should stay away, or we should minimize, or we should not get exposed to all type of smoke. We should avoid going to public places that allow smoking, okay. Especially when a person suffer from asthma, if someone smoke, that person will have more difficulty in breathing, okay. Then we should avoid coming in contact with people that are suffering from cold symptoms, okay, from cold, because symptoms of asthma, they can become worse, okay, if we catch the infection. So if we suffer, like you know that when a person suffer from cold, or if our friends suffer from cold, we also likely to we also likely to catch that cold from them. Okay, so if we have asthma, if we catch cold from them, the infection will become more worse. So we should always wash our hands after we touch items that have been handled by others with a respiratory infection. So if our friends have a respiratory infection, so whatever things they touch, we should, after touching what they have touched, we should always wash our hands. So we should always get vaccinated every year, or we should always get injection, right? So every year to protect against from flu virus and pneumonia. And we should always take medication that is being prescribed by the doctor, and we should visit our doctor regularly to take our medications correctly along with the right amount of dose. We should never take medicines by ourselves, or we should never take our own medicines, or we should never take how much quantity of dosage we want. We should always consult a doctor. Okay, the next common respiratory disease is your bronchitis. Under this bronchitis, there will be a swelling of the lining of your bronchial tubes. Remember, we have been studying about the your bronchus. Okay, so what will happen is that when a person suffer from bronchitis, that bronchus or the tubes, okay, the bronchioles, what will happen is that they will have a swelling in the lining. Okay, so these bronchial tubes are the airways that connect the trachea to the lungs, right? Your tracheas are further divided into bronchioles, and then they will reach into the lungs. So these tubes are the main passage where your trachea will get connected to the lungs. Okay, so when it starts swelling, it makes a person have a difficulty, or we can say that if this bronchis or bronchioles are swollen, the air cannot pass in properly and out from the lungs. Okay, it makes hard for the air to pass in and out of your lungs. It also makes the tissues more irritated, and hence mucus is produced. So what are the symptoms is that a person who suffers from bronchitis, we will see that the most common symptoms is cough. Okay, beside this, they will also have a complaint in headache, chills, mild fever, shortness of breath, wheezing, feeling of tightness in the chest. Okay, so what are the causes of your bronchitis? So a person suffering from bronchitis, they are mainly caused by virus. Okay, these bronchitis are mainly caused by virus. Okay, so this virus can spread from one person to another by coughing. Okay, so especially virus nowadays, right, it's a common one is your coronavirus, right? So in the same way, this virus, okay, this bronchitis where a virus is being present, they'll be easily being spread if you touch your eyes, nose or mouth after coming in contact with infected person. Just like you had your coronavirus, if you come in contact with them, and if you do not wash your hands, and if you touch your eyes, nose or mouth, you also are likely to suffer from coronavirus, right? So in the same way, in the bronchitis, when a person is suffering from a bronchitis, what will happen is that if you come in contact with them, and if you touch your eyes, nose or mouth, you are also likely to suffer from bronchitis. Okay, and smoking and exposure to air pollutants such as your chemical fumes are also the other causes of your bronchitis. So how can you prevent bronchitis is that we should wash our hands to prevent the spread of germs. We should avoid smoking. Okay, and then a person who does not smoke also should avoid being around those smokers. Okay, then we should also take plenty of rest. We should also eat healthy diet so that our body can fight against illness. So to prevent our body to suffer from any types of illness, okay, not only bronchitis, any type of illness, it is always necessary to eat a healthy diet. Okay, so in the next class we will be studying about the other two, that is your pneumonia and your tuberculosis. So till now, I hope you are clear with your common respiratory disease.